This episode of the Major Issues Podcast is brought to you by patreon.com/CBC Clubhouse. Comic Book Click is on Patreon, guys. For as little as 10 cents a day or $3 a month, not only can you help keep the lights on here at Comic Book Click headquarters, but your donation gives you access to exclusive content like CBC commentaries, polls where you can choose what content we cover next, and special behind-the-scenes footage of things here at Comic Book Click. Visit patreon.com/CBC Clubhouse today and become a Patreon. And remember, you, yes you, are worthy. Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you could only be here for one reason. That's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you by comicbookclick.com. And as always, I am never alone. Sir, can you please introduce yourself?
I am another variant of Dan from C137 Timeline, and I'm here to take over the Suicide Squad co-hosting for today.
I seem to not be able to get rid of you, Dan's, but I seem to have another variant of Dan the comic. Man, you already look different than your other variants. I could already see that.
I'm a lot more of a happier variant. I felt like I see my Dan handle this timeline of podcasting. He's a very angry person. I think the fans deserve a much more happy and cheerful episode today. It is August 3rd. For us, it is a beautiful 2021. Well, for you, I don't live in 21.
Well, I like your Hot Topic aesthetic. I like the gray color of your skin. You seem to come from a very DC Universe-esque universe, but you're in a good mood, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters. And yeah, like you said, we're right around the corner. We've been celebrating some big anniversaries lately. We're right around the corner from the 5-year anniversary of the release of Suicide Squad. Not only was it the introduction of that team into the silver screen via DC Comics, but also the introduction of many characters that will go on to play bigger roles in future films, and the subject of so much controversy. There are people who love this film. There are people who hate this film. There are people who don't even know the problems that took place behind the scenes of this film. And we'll be talking about all of that in this 5-year anniversary episode. One of the things that we had to do to be able to cover this is to go back and watch this film, which is something that I don't know many people have been doing. James Gunn's Suicide Squad is right around the corner, so maybe people are dipping back into the David Ayer Suicide Squad. But it's been a while, Dan. What do you remember from the last time you saw this film?
I had a very, very, very amazing theater experience, and I feel almost robbed that I got to enjoy this movie in a ways that not many others got to enjoy this movie. I went to this movie, had to be 12 deep. And I say 12 deep because all of my friends and I literally took up an entire theater row.
Okay.
Like from one end of the aisle to the other end of the aisle, we took up an entire theater row. And we went in enjoying this. I'll never forget. I think it was the big Will Smith Deadshot scene in the street, where all of my friends and I would just look at each other and whisper, yo, fuck Rotten Tomatoes. Yo, fuck Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes know what they're talking about. Yo, fuck Rotten Tomatoes. Because Rotten Tomatoes gave this a 14. While we were watching this, we ended up getting a notification from Rotten Tomatoes score. It was like a 14%, I think.
Okay.
Or like a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes. So my theater experience of this was loving everything. Now, there were certain moments where we laughed, where we made fun of it, and we laughed that we made fun of it, but it didn't overall deter us from the enjoyment.
Yeah, I think that theater experience has a lot to do with your enjoyment of film sometimes. I know people who have gone in and had horrible theater experiences and end up disliking pretty popular films because of it, because it is all about how you're able to engross yourself into this universe. I remember watching it. I remember distinctively digging it as I watched it. I remember afterwards thinking that I didn't really remember anything too monumental about the film. And then it became what I think certain commentators call a fridge film, in the sense that I thought, like, I figured everything was on the up and up, and then I would go to my fridge at 3 o'clock in the morning to get a snack and be like, "Hey, wait a minute, that part of the movie didn't really make any sense."
Well, I don't think this is meant to be a monumental film. Like this isn't exactly like we're getting Superman hovering above Batman in the sky with the bat light, with the bat signal showing. Like this wasn't meant to be iconic. This wasn't meant to have, oh, that's a classic shot. That's a classic scene. It wasn't meant to have any of that. I think this was just a fun, turn your brain off just for a second and watch action. Watch action at the expense of action's sake. And that's really what DC was just trying to go for. They were just, you know what this movie reminded me a lot of? A shoot 'em up that took itself too seriously. Imagine if shoot 'em up took itself seriously.
Well, people
That's
could argue that DC themselves take themselves too seriously. And while I agree that it didn't have to be a monumental work of art, the issue with it is its placement in the timeline, because this film comes out mere months after Batman versus Superman. So while it's not this big iconic or, sweeping epic, it literally came months after that. It's almost the equivalent of when Ant-Man came out after Avengers Age of Ultron. Many people didn't end up seeing Ant-Man because they're like, what's the point of going and watching this very small, seemingly inconsequential film after this massive film in Age of Ultron?
hilarious how they do it again with Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, and they also did it with Spider-Man with this last Endgame.
Oh yeah.
So so it does happen. But yeah, I think that's what I remember from the film. Like, just like thinking like I had fun, but if I think about it too much, I remember having a lot of issues with the film. Without going into full details, has your opinion changed? Like, now that you were able to watch it, I guess solo, was the experience still enjoyable? Were you still finding yourself having fun with it? Where do you
Uh,
sit on this?
you know what it is? This is the Marvel. This is the DC equivalent of New Mutants for me. It's the more I watch it, the more I don't understand why I don't dislike it. I don't hate Suicide Squad. I don't even think Suicide Squad is bad. I think Suicide Squad was potential. There's a lot of missing ingredients. A lot of missing ingredients. If you gave me a nice bowl of soup, I would notice if it's missing the potatoes or the broth. And you're just handing a bowl of just vegetables. Like, there was some missing ingredients. But I did find myself still enjoying 3/4 of this movie. I rewatched it a few nights ago, Sunday night. I rewatched it, the extended cut, and I was enjoying a lot of it. There was a lot of moments where I was like, this isn't that bad. This is pretty cool. A lot of the acting and the chemistry specifically, you can't fight chemistry and you can't fight people having good times. And Jai Courtney is just eating the scene as Captain Boomerang. Harley is great, going around trying to do a little psych eval on everybody, see where everybody leads, and then just gives everybody a diagnosis and walks away. There was a lot to be desired for this movie, but then we get like an hour and 45 minutes into the movie. Now I'm checking the runtime. Now I'm like, okay, this is a little boring. Like, where are we going with this? There was too many walking and talking scenes. Way too many walking and talking scenes for a movie that should be bad guys being sent to fight bad guys, and if they don't do it, they die.
So you
Or
found
if they do it,
you found that you were a little bit more critical this time around?
I was definitely a little bit more critical this time around, but I was also very much in of the camp of, it's a dark horse. It's a guilty pleasure. I could throw this movie on in the background, pay attention for a few scenes, smile, laugh, enjoy it, and then go back to doing what I'm doing. It's the same thing with New Mutants. The other day, New Mutants was on HBO Zone, and I left it on.
Yeah.
And I just let it play.
I fear that when we get an ensemble piece done right in about a week's time, when we come back here to review the Suicide Squad, this film will fall several ranks back down.
Gunn.
Yeah.
It's not only Gunn, but it's all of James Gunn's boys.
Right.
It's the dude from Ant-Man. The guy,
David Malchin. He's got Sean Gunn. He's got Michael Rooker. Yeah. He's got a lot of heavy hitters from his side.
He has all of his boys. I think Tyler Bates is even going to do the score. If Tyler Bates is doing the score, that's it. He checked off the gun bingo box. Got his brother, his two friends, his composer. We're checking off the gun bingo box.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm looking very much forward to this. As far as my opinion, going forward. So now I sympathize with this film a bit more. I do, like you said, see a bit of breadcrumb trails of where things were supposed to go. But there's a moment in this film, and we'll get into it when we get into the plot, that now I look at as a moment of complete, what do you call that? It was like a showing of just rookie level editing and rookie level storytelling that now
Yeah.
has just completely changed. Like, I completely forgot that this was an element to the film. Maybe I didn't understand. And upon rewatch, I see this and I go and I rewind it. I'm like, are they saying what I think that they're saying? And when they do, it now has changed my mind completely about the pacing of this film and how it was kind of put together. We'll get into the nuance of the production woes that this film went into. So let me give you guys some background on this film. By February 2009, so 7 years before it even came out, a Suicide Squad film was in development at Warner Brothers. Director David Ayer signed on to write and direct the film in September of 2014, and by October of 2014, the cast process had already begun. Principal photography began in Toronto, Ontario on August 13th, 2015, with additional filming in Chicago, and ended in August of that year. The Suicide Squad premiered in New York City on August 1st, 2016, and was released in the United States all over the United States on August 5th, 2016. Following a strong debut that set box office records initially, the film grossed over 746 million worldwide, making it the 10th highest grossing film of 2016.
I'm one of those box office people.
Me too.
Because I definitely thought.
The film
Wait, you
received.
said it came out August 5th, 2016. Which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Because in August 5th of 2021, there'll be a lot of people seeing Suicide Squad 2.
Yes. Yep. And I'm just interested in seeing how many people go back to this. Like, if this gets any more sales or stuff, because it's in the popular.
For me,
culture
it depends
at the moment
on where this sits in Suicide Squad's self-contained timeline.
It's not going to sit anywhere. They're not. If I had to guess, we're acting like none of that ever happened.
So this is just a straight reboot of a reboot.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
they're rebooting their own product.
And it's maddening again because the ending of this doesn't gel with the beginning of Birds of Prey, and the ending of Birds of Prey will not gel with the beginning of the Suicide Squad. So all of that is just maddening. But even with this maddening nature, you got praise for the cast, criticism for the plot. It won multiple awards, including an Oscar for Best Makeup and Hairstyling, making it the first DCEU film to win an Academy Award. And what's special is it predates the Justice League as the first film in the DCEU that was seemingly taken away from its original director and subsequently ruined by studio mandates and interference. I don't think the story of how bad this thing got is public knowledge, but we'll get into it after we review the film, so we can see the film as the mess that it is, and then I'll unlock some of the secrets as to why it is that mess. One of the things I think people remember the most about this film is the freaking, and I didn't even have this in my notes, but I was thinking about it now, the freaking promotion. This film was promoted everywhere. It was on bus stops, it was in train stations, toys, Hot Topic, posters, commercials, music videos, right? We had 3 or 4 music videos, I feel like, by the time this film came out.
It was
from the soundtrack.
It was You Don't Own Me,
Purple Lamborghini, I Need a Gangster, Heathens, Sucker for Pain.
Oh yes, yes.
So there was a good handful. I don't feel like this Suicide Squad is getting anywhere near as much promotion for some reason. But if I had to guess, it's because of the issues with this. Like, James Gunn much rather let people sleep on this, like they did Guardians 1, and then just have it be promoted word of mouth, which would be much cheaper when push comes to shove.
Yeah, but after about 2 decades of Gunn's career, from Super to Belko Experiment to writing, he wrote Scooby-Doo. He wrote Scooby-Doo. He wrote Dawn of the Dead. I think people trust James Gunn. So I
Yeah,
think the fact that he's taking over a movie that's so much that they wanted so much to be like Guardians that it's gonna be like a cakewalk for him.
yeah, but I wonder why they didn't put money behind the promotion. That's my
Uh,
whole thing. Like, I don't understand why they
it
didn't
probably
do it as
costs.
bad as but I mean, they obviously don't care about cost. Look what they did. Look what they do for half of these films. I'm not too sure, but I'm hoping that I'm like I said, I think that the mindset is that it will be so good that word of mouth will work in its favor, and thus moving forward, everyone
No,
will
of
end up
course. I
watching it
think
and it'll be
it's
cheaper.
smart. I think it's smart too with the HBO Max stuff. But I hope HBO Max isn't pulling a Disney, and I hope that it's in his contract that he gets both releases because I don't want to hear James Gunn suing HBO Max and DC
But
because
at the very last year, I want to say sometime last year when they had decided that this is what the route that they were going to go in, it was decided that all of HBO Max's 2021 releases, or sorry, all of Warner Brothers 2021 releases will be released on HBO Max. That was like a big announcement that they made. So seemingly
yes,
last year they what is it, crossed the T's and dotted the I's with the directors. I'm assuming that they did, right? So hopefully
yeah,
that works in their favor.
Nolan. I
Oh,
remember.
yeah, and then Christopher Nolan got very, very, very upset. But so before we trash this thing, let's talk a little bit about the things that we liked about it. Would you like to start, or you want me to start?
Okay, so I like anybody that has a visionary eye.
Mhm.
The vision can be bad, can be a little askew. You know, look at Zack Snyder. I'm a very vocal about how I defend Zack Snyder, but when I see vision, when I see creativity, when I see someone that is trying to do something, it's hard for me to hate on them more so as that's just not my taste. There's a lot of Suicide Squad that's this isn't my taste, and a lot of this is my taste, but now you're messing up the ingredients. I love the cast. I love the cast. I think the cast was perfect. Viola Davis is one of the greatest actresses in human history. Like literally, Viola Davis is probably top 5 greatest actors, just all around human actors that ever lived.
Yeah, she
I
definitely elevated what the material that she had. I feel like a lot of other people could have really sucked in that role.
oh man, she's walking around with smiles and smirks, and I'm loving her. Her performance was the best. Now that I'm rewatching this years later,
Yeah,
she had the best performance of anybody in this movie.
yeah, it's
Of
almost like
anybody,
she's in a better movie.
she
She
no one told
doesn't
Viola
really,
Davis she was in Suicide Squad.
right.
Someone told Viola Davis that she was in a military espionage spy war flick, and
Yeah.
that's how she's acting. No one told her, "Hey, honey, this is a movie with crocodiles and neon aesthetics."
So one of the things that I'll say is good is that I really, really, really like the designs for both Harley Quinn and the Enchantress. While I know that saying that about Harley now seems like saying, I like cookies, like it's something that's so nebulous that everyone agrees with now. But at the time, they were really trying to make this look work. And throughout the film, all of the looks work. When you first see her, that look works. When she puts on her makeup and puts on her, get up, that look works. When the rain hits and the makeup is smeared and all that stuff is thing, even that look works.
Or she has like blood on the under the lips, but it's like blue makeup, and it's
And
like
it's still killer. It's still badass. It's still killer. It still works, which is why this thing won an Oscar for best makeup, hair, and stuff like that. Enchantress as well. Like that look is unique to that film, to my
Air's
knowledge.
Air's Enchantress look is way better. That's one of the biggest takeaways that I remember when we first saw it. When I first saw Enchantress, I'm like, oh, the ghost with the gyrating, and then there's
Yeah.
this design where she actually looks genuinely good. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Either my brain went somewhere else or this is a completely different design. Because I remember Enchantress being covered in smoke, constantly gyrating.
Yeah.
I don't remember that when she was Enchantress, she had like the green design on the neck and
Yeah.
her hair was like flowing. I'm like, whoa, if this was Air's design, he knocked Enchantress out of the park of parks.
Yeah. The
Enchantress
weird
is amazing here.
the weird like the ring-esque, aesthetic for Enchantress, and the tattoos on the face, like that whole thing I thought was really, really cool. I love the one time we see it, I love the transformation into Enchantress, where you see Enchantress's
Oh,
hand grab June Moon's and turn it over like an hourglass, and all of a sudden she's her. Like more of that stuff. Like what where did
yeah,
that go?
yeah, right. Like I think that that was the problem. Is like this movie was trying to survive off of three different scripts. You had Alfred Wood. Sorry, you were amazing too. You have Viola Davis trying to get Task Force X. You have Joker just existing and doing his own thing, and then
Yeah.
you have the whole Enchantress setup of it. So you have too many villains, all with their own motivation.
It's even worse because on top of that you have a Rick Flag love story. On top of that you have a Diablo redemption story, and on top of that you have a
A
Deadshot
Deadshot
redemption
loves.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, he has a both. He has a redemption love story because he loves his daughter and he's trying to redeem himself.
Yeah. So it's just a lot. It's very stuffed, and that therefore, in my opinion, not everyone gets their just desserts in it because everyone's trying to fit in their narrative and stuff. What else do
You
I like?
can't do that.
I like this soundtrack. I do. I think it's hip. I do think it has some bangers on it. If you don't like 20
I
Pilots, you'll like Rick Ross. If you don't like Rick Ross, hopefully you'll like Lil Wayne and Sucker for Pain or whatever. Um
I
I
still roll my eyes at Eminem. There was no reason to
Oh
play
no, but I
without
don't
me.
consider that. I don't consider that. I'm talking about the songs made for the soundtrack, not the score.
Oh, okay.
The Purple Lamborghini, the Sucker for Pain, the I Need a Gangster, the You Don't Own Me, like all of those are bangers. It's in my opinion. Like you could play any of those, and they're hip,
Purple Lamborghini.
they're
I
modern,
remember that song.
they're modern. They work with the designs of these characters, but that's one of the few things that does work with this film. It goes down a couple of rabbit holes that seemingly it cannot recover from. But if you're ready, we can get into this plot, and you can let me know what you think as we go along.
Let's do it.
All right. Our film opens up with a very neon punkish set of logos, and it brings us to Bel Rev, the maximum security prison our main characters are currently in. We meet Will Smith's Floyd Lawton and Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, who both get musical intros showing us the mistreatment of prisoners here. What do you think of Margot and Smith in these roles? I feel like there was a big spotlight put on them it's more so than anyone else. Margot was, I wouldn't say a relatively unknown, but in comparison to Will Smith, didn't have that cachet of star power, I don't think. But I think her introduction as Harley here, they were really banking on this character working and the actress working. What did you think?
Oh, 100%. They were like yeah. If you look at the cast of just the cast of actors and actresses in this movie, it seemed like they were trying to either A, hone in on their one big star, and B, try to make another big star.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell you any of these other actors or actresses' names except for Karen Fukuhara from
Right.
The Boys. She's the only one that I know. Other
Right.
than that, yeah, it's like this. It's like the chemistry of these characters was revolving around Harley and Deadshot, and even shows when Rick Flag was trying to make Deadshot like have the Suicide Squad be on his side. He's like, hey, they listened to you. You know, you're a respectable guy. And then there's like
Yeah.
a whole 15 minutes of Harley just literally individually trying to do a psych eval on everybody. She's trying to get everybody to turn on Rick Flag. Like there was so many scenes where it's just Deadshot and Harley, and really so much besides Diablo. There's the ones that we get most backstories for. How many times did we get a backstory for Harley?
Don't even get me started on flashbacks in this film, bro.
Bro, for real? Like,
Don't even get
come
me
on.
started on flashbacks in this film. One of the things I did like about this introduction scene for both of them, even though, like I said, it's the beginning of all the music that we get, is that they show that they're formidable, right? You see Flag training. You see Margot's able to trick the guards a little bit and get in their heads. You see that they are forces to be reckoned with, even though they're both seemingly just human. And they're, like I said, they were the standout in most of the reviews. Like people really dug how they played those roles. One of the big things that I don't feel like they follow up on is the mistreatment of criminals in this. Where do you stand on that? Like, how fairly are we supposed to be treating these guys? Because you see that they were like feeding Harley through like a tube at one point, beating Deadshot nearly to death. I'm putting you on the hot seat. Where do you sit on the fair
I
treatment of
I,
criminals?
I am a supporter of prison reform.
Uh-huh.
I have seen Shawshank Redemption. I have seen Green Mile. I am big on prison reform. I feel like if somebody wants to actively change, actively get better, if someone wants to rehabilitate themselves, who are you to play God?
But
We
the
say it all
question
the
is, are they in jail because they wanted to wanted to rehabilitate themselves, or is it because they got caught?
they, they got caught, but that decision now leads up to you.
Yeah.
Once you're in jail and you have no other option, and really it's either a digress or progress. I believe that a person would want to progress if they want to.
You eventually have to make a decision, like what you're saying. If you think that everyone who's ever done bad is not worth redemption, then say that. But don't say that people who have done bad can seek redemption. And then once they're in a place where that stuff is sort of kind of offered, to close that door on them is
Redemption, yeah, redemption is offered in jail, but the American prison system, it's shit. It's modern day slavery.
yeah, and they get a lot of money. There's some for profit prisons out there. So
Only
yeah,
for profit prisons where they're the ones making your tires, and these guys are just, oh yes, but they're being rehabilitated. Come on,
one of the other things we can say is that this prison is on a black site. No one knows where this thing is at.
that's the
Um,
problem. It was in a hole, and the hole got thrown away. However, you throw away holes.
yeah, and speaking of the person who said that line, "Sympathy of the Devil" introduces Viola Davis's
Well,
Amanda
not
Waller,
not at all. Not on the nose at all.
who tells us things have changed since the death of Superman. She does her best to convince the US government to greenlight Task Force X, a government sanctioned response team of criminals and supervillains that could take down a Superman level threat. That's a bit wonky when you see the team that she does. I think if you just had Diablo, you could probably Diablo and Enchantress, you could probably take down a Superman level threat. He's kind of weak to
Diablo,
magic.
Enchantress, Killer Croc.
I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know
Diablo
about
and
Croc. He can stay home for me.
Enchantress home for you. Leave Killer Croc. Hey, leave Waylon Jennings alone.
Jones,
My man.
Waylon Jennings, I think is a singer.
Oh yes, singer. He sung the Dukes of Hazzard theme song.
There you go.
Just a good old boys.
Uh, yeah. So the team will be used to combat metahuman threats under Wallace control via nanite bombs implanted in each criminal's neck, which can be remotely detonated if they step out of line. If successful, they'll have their sentences shortened, and if they fail, Waller could pretend to not know anything about it. It's her word
How
versus
can
the
you
criminals.
in a life sentence? How can Oh, you have two life sentences? Now you only have one life sentence.
Yeah, you see how she dangles this freedom in front of them constantly. It is something that they want. It is something of value, and once you have something of value, you can start to negotiate some terms, and she seemingly is down to do that. But we're not done with the music. We get another round of
No,
character
literally,
intros.
I counted it myself. 4 songs. It was 5 songs in under 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah,
9 minutes, 39 seconds. 5 songs were played.
right. The jukebox keeps going because we get another round of character intros. Deadshot shows how Amanda Waller used his daughter to get him arrested. Just kind of jacked up. Harley Quinn gives us our first look at Jared Leto's Joker, including an origin montage, a club meeting between the couple and Common, and how Joker abandons her when Batman's on his trail. I think hers is the juiciest little tidbit there. So let's talk about that a bit. I think the Mad Love origin, the Harley Quinn origin, is one of the most unique modern origins in DC's lore. And I feel like resorting it here to a montage is almost criminal. The interesting levels of that story are what brings you back to this movie.
They even gave you that. They gave you Alex Ross's design for what, a second?
Yeah. I
For
mean,
what, a
they
second?
literally go yada yada through the Mad Love thing. Like we stop the movie Suicide Squad and just do the episode Mad Love where she's a psychiatrist and she's talking to him. They break out like that flashback takes place for like 5, 6, 7 minutes.
My
In
problem
between the
is I don't
shooting.
buy it. That's my problem. I don't buy that she fell in love. At least in Mad Love, You got literally Joker going through the motions of a therapy session to
Yeah,
where
and
Harley was even narrating, like, "Oh my God, I'm starting to fall in love with this crazy. Am I crazy?" Like she was questioning her own sanity. Mad Love is one of the best episodes.
well, you can do that when you have time to breathe. Like if this would have just been a Hardy film, you could have done that. She could have had moments of doubt. She could have eventually, put her foot down and say this is what she wanted. You could have seen her have this debate with him that she does later on with the motorcycle stuff of like, I love you. Why? At one point she says, and it feels like written by a writer, but she's like, you're more scared of my love than you are a gun or something. And I'm like, that's a bit much. But yeah, they made Joker seem like this guy afraid of love, but then coming closer. It was a weird simp kind of energy coming from that thing there. And like I said, it's just very weird that they would truncate so much depth into such a little soundbite. Like, oh, here's everything you need to know. I wonder if comic book fans or people who are more familiar with Harley kind of filled in their own blanks. And I wonder what somebody who had no idea who Harley was, how they like this character as described in
I
this film.
think I think it's pop culture's what's it called? Their forte. When it comes down to pop culture, even if you've never personally seen something, you know the spoilers, you know the motion, you know Batman's parents got shot, died in an alley. You know Superman is a orphan alien from Krypton. I think everybody knows Harley's origin without having to actually watch the episode or read the comic. I think it's just always been stated. It's always been there. It's like common knowledge. It's like 2 plus 2.
It's pretty interesting though. It's pretty interesting that she's reached that level, in my opinion. Like it's pretty
And
cool.
she's only a 20. She's only my age. She's a little younger than me. I'm older than Harley Quinn's character.
Yeah, same thing with me. And yeah, she's a household name now. So it's just a shame. You remember, 2000 to be in 2016 again. They had this whole slate of films, and we kept thinking, well, okay, if this one isn't good, we got another one coming up, or if this Harley introduction isn't good, supposedly we have a Harley and Joker movie in the works that never came to light. Um, it's a shame. I feel like they failed both characters of Harley and Joker in this by chopping it up and just giving us the parts that they liked, because I
But
think the
that's also
nuance is in the
DC's
middle.
problem. DC's problem is they like to introduce these very iconic, very big characters that need room to grow. They need their origin stories. They gave us Joker and Harley without ever giving us Joker and Harley.
Yeah.
Like BVS gave you the death of Robin without ever introducing Robin.
Yeah, I mean, you have this moment here where you have this pretty blatant like abandonment where Joker leaves Harley to get arrested by Batman. Um, and then later on, he's so crushed that she's gone. It's almost, I mean, I guess if you can play into the toxicity of bad relationships, that's there, but they didn't do enough for me in that moment there. Like, there should have been more to be said about like how he misses her, maybe like he misses a ring that he owned once, and he just wants to he can't find it, so he just wants to get it back again just for the sake of possession, as opposed to like this weird deep love. But one of the things that we'll talk about is seemingly the initial story was a lot more abusive and would paint Joker in a bad light and stuff, and somehow some way through the editing process they decided that the more palatable story would be Joker and Harley, these just damaged lovers, these just damaged goods who still love each other, and all that weird toxic Jersey Shore
I feel like the relationship is already too tainted. The relationship's already tainted. I don't. Yes, this is probably the most unabusive Joker we've ever seen, but we already know the Joker abused Harley. We already know it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no matter what you give us, Joker and Harley, we're going to expect and wait and anticipate the slap. When I was watching the extended cut and they're on the highway, I'm literally just waiting for, like, I'm counting the seconds. Like, oh, he's going to slap her. He's going to slap her. He grabs the gun. I'm like, is he going to hit her? He doesn't hit her. I'm like, I see what you did there. But you see how I'm waiting for the back smack? The relationship's already tainted. Joker abuses Harley physically. Like, he legit hits her.
But think about it. If you're coming in this with fresh eyes, the Joker hitting Harley is not a moment in the film. It's not a moment in the theatrical cut. So you have all reason to
You
believe that
have
they're
to
just,
really know, like, live under a rock to not know that Joker physically
bro,
abuses Harley.
bro. We got to come out of our comic book cave because there's a lot of people who don't even know that there's a difference between Marvel and DC.
No way.
That's 100% a fact. That's a
I can
hundred
no,
percent a fact.
sadly, and I kind of believe that. I sadly, literally believe that.
A comic book movie to some is just a comic book movie. They don't know. They don't know who owns Invincible. You understand? They're not trying to talk about where the boys came from. This all seems to be under the same, banner and stuff. Half the time, I like pulling the a layman aside and just discussing the craziness that is the Spider-Man rights and watching their eyes open because they had no idea how crazy and political things can get. So if you're coming in this without any knowledge of this couple, DC is feeding you this narrative that they're just flawed. And
And they're almost sort of retconning a lot of characters without knowing that they're retconning these characters, especially since not a lot of people, many of people don't read comics and they just watch the comic book movies.
right.
So a lot of these characters that we know is going what goes down in the comics, these people that are not going to read it, this is their interpretation. This is all they get.
Yep, Cassandra
Imagine how many
Cain.
people are looking at this Joker like, oh, this Joker's badass. This Joker's cool. This Joker got tattoos on his face like me.
Do you want to do you want to do the Joker talk now?
Yeah, I guess let's go through Joker talk.
That look came out. If you remember, there was a look at him with his gun, with his hand against his head like a gun, his mouth wide open, showing a set of silver capped teeth. The damaged tattoo on the forehead. He was shirtless. It was our first look at the Joker, and everyone went crazy. People
Hated it.
people judged it off the rip. People then waited and then judged it as they saw it. Some people hated it when they saw it the first time. Some people hated it when they saw it in the film. It's a unique look. I like the aspect of him being a gangster because Joker in other films has been a gangster, but a gangster in the weird trapped 1940s aesthetic that Batman is usually in. So I feel like if he was a gangster now, he would kind of be like that.
I like his noir look. I
Yeah.
do. I like his noir. Like when Mark Hamill has that really long fedora hat and he's got like the bolo tie and,
Yeah.
and the trench coat. I love that 1940s gangster. I'm a big fan of that.
So yeah, they did the best they can here. It's just a bunch of weird acting choices like snarling and growling and sometimes I feel like he's channeling, and honestly sometimes I feel like he's channeling Jim Carrey. Like there's a weird Jim Carrey energy that he's bringing to this that I don't necessarily want. I don't want Jim Carrey Joker.
Oh no, yeah, definitely Jim Carrey playing the Joker. This is Jared Leto playing Jim Carrey playing the Joker.
Yeah. This
like
is
if he took the Riddler for some reason. But I finally figured it out. When I watched it, it's like I unlocked my chakras and I realized what it is I don't like about the Joker. And there's only two things that I would change in an instance, and it would make it a whole lot better. The grills and the damaged tattoo. It's the only two things. I'm looking at it and I'm like, he's being crazy. He's being crazy. He's being a gangster. He's showing off his woman like a prize and then gunning down the guy that's eyeing her. Like there was so much about the Joker that I was genuinely enjoying as its own interpretation. But the damaged and mainly the grills were bothering me. The grills was some like cultural appropriation thing that I just could not accept.
You thought he looked like James Franco in Spring Breakers?
He looked like Riff Raff. Yeah, exactly. You got a James Franco from Spring Breakers thing going on. I'm just like, bro, you were being very... You're stealing a culture that they get made fun of for genuinely going through.
Well, the thing is, this is one of those things, almost like when Justice League came out, where the behind the scenes details or origins for some of these choices are seemingly more interesting than the film itself, because we find out through interviews and a bunch of other stuff that Batman seemingly knocked the teeth out of this Joker, and thus this is the repair. This is the dental repair that you're seeing in his face.
Grills
Possibly.
I'm gonna be open-minded. I'm an open-minded variant.
Well, I'm saying look at what's his face? Look at Red Guardian. He's got a bunch of silver cap teeth, right? It's just like cheap dental work. Cheap dental.
Yeah, but those are fillings. This was legit. I got my mouth molded Like you would have to have teeth to get a mold for the grills he was wearing. I know. I'm
Yeah.
from that lifestyle. My uncle has grills. You would legit have to bite the clay for them to mold it because those grills were like you can tell that they were put on in one big motion. With the Red Guardian, it was legit fillings. Those are metal fillings. That's just shitty dental work.
Yeah, they have a bunch of weird, like
This
the weird
was
choices of
like,
tattoos, the lack of eyebrows.
you know what? It reminded me of denture. It's like if he purposely got his dentures to be grills.
Yeah,
Which if my headcanon is gonna go there, then I guess that's a psychotic thing for the Joker to do. But how crazy does a person have to be to get dentures as grills or
do
grills
you
as
remember? Do you remember the rumor that people were thinking that this might be a Robin? Were you
oh
aware
god,
that that was a
I
rumor?
yeah, I do remember those.
People were saying that he has a J on his face, which was they believed that it was tattooed on him by the Joker, and this was some kind of Jokerized Robin. People were looking for any reason in particular, to be honest, to distance this from anything. We were less than 10 years removed from Heath Ledger's Joker, and so any Joker was going to be highly compared to his. And
Well, it's funny because the only Robin that it could be is Tim Drake
right,
because of Return
the
because
story.
Batman Beyond Return of the Joker.
Well, I don't even know where Tim Drake would have been in this universe. Seemingly, the Robin that died was Dick Grayson, which also doesn't make any sense at all because the
What?
Robin that dies is. I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you, bro. They just take the famous stories. They don't have any.
I'm an open-minded variant. That's all I know. I have to be an open-minded variant.
Anyway, we see Jai Courtney's Digger Harkness, aka Captain Boomerang, was arrested by the Flash after a series of robberies.
Best supporting character in this movie. Like as far as like as it goes as supporting character, and GT's gonna laugh at me because he knows I hate Jai Courtney. But rewatching this, damn it, Jai Courtney was like the best thing in this movie. He goes up to Diablo with the lighter. He's like, "Ooh, fire!" Ooh, I'm just cracking up. Or when he's on the island and he's like, "Hey, man, I was just doing nothing, and these guys grabbed me, put me in a bag."
I wish that he had stake in this somehow.
Me too. Me
He
too.
has no stake. He's just there, and he's funny. I like him. I have nothing bad to say about him, which is probably why they're bringing him back.
Everyone's fighting, and he's hiding behind a car, drinking like 3 beers.
Yeah. We have Jay Hernandez, aka Chato Santana, aka Diablo, who surrendered himself to police after losing control of his powers. Waylon Jones is next, and he gets nothing. He is barely explained. They don't say why he looks like a crocodile man. He doesn't really they should have went full CGI for this. I feel like the actor is kind of let down by what they were able to do because the amount of makeup that this man needed to become
I think they said it was like 8 hours worth of makeup only to do like 2 hours of shooting.
But the thing is, the amount of makeup and prosthetics that are done to his face makes it disproportionate with the rest of his body. When he takes off his shirt later on, his head is huge.
And his body
has this weird, he just has this weird, scaly, regular body. They totally should have, if they wanted to keep the actor, they totally should have CGI'd this thing. You're gonna see how
they weren't won their Oscar for no reason.
But I'm saying you're gonna see how much fun they're gonna have with King Shark in the next film because of the ability to be this big wacky thing instead of trying.
And all you have to do is voice act.
But the fact that they didn't feel like they needed to explain him why he's a crocodile man, why he eats, they're like, he looked like a monster, so they treated him like a monster, and then he became a monster. And I'm like, come on, man. There was too many Amanda Waller things like that, where she was just trying to do like a cold line reading to sound cool, and it didn't work. They just feed him a goat.
I put him in a hole and threw away the hole. Like
they did mention that Batman chased him out of Gotham, so there's that.
But she also mentioned that he was looking for sanctuary. So why is he in jail if poor guy was just looking for a place to live?
I guess he was eating people still. Last but not least is Enchantress, the demonic spirit that inhabited archaeologist Jewel Moon's body and is now working for Waller. Or Waller would destroy her heart, thus destroying the spirit. Heading the team is going to be Colonel Rick Flag. So I should say Cara Delevingne is the Enchantress. Colonel Rick Flag is played by I don't know why I'm blanking right now. Joel Kinnaman. For some strange reason, Scott Eastwood is in this and he's not really doing much.
He barely has a line.
So that
Like
was really
you have the
weird.
son of Clint Eastwood, and he's like a background character.
Yeah. So Colonel Rick Flags is assigned to watch June Moon and falls in love with her as per Waller's plans, which is supposed to make him mendable, with or malleable
I
because
don't know
of
how
the love.
Mahler's plan was. Well, like, what if Rick Flag was gay? What if June Moon was gay?
It's just weird in general. Like,
What if they were both asexual? Your plan was to put a guy and a girl together for the guy to fall in love with the girl. That's very archaic of you.
well,
Very.
she is a supermodel, Dan.
She is a supermodel.
Waller does her
Paradox.
She does her presentation, including showing people her control of Enchantress in front of government leaders that include David Harbour in his first bad comic book movie. He won't let it be his last, though, in a couple of years. And the chairman agrees to greenlight the project under Argus. Each of Waller's picks are released and then given an orientation about Task Force X. Deathshot gets to practice shooting while Will Smith is in his full "these white folks is tripping" mode. Did you catch that? Like he's just in these
Oh
jokers.
yeah,
He just did doing
yeah.
his Bad Boys too. He's doing his Will Smith. He's Will
You
Smith.
jokers is crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
he's just doing that. Like,
I'm not gonna lie.
was
it
there a
the-
worse line reading than "You lady are evil"? Is there a worse line reading than that? Who wrote that line? Where he's just
David Ayer.
he's gonna point to a witch and do that. Seems very, very odd. So Flag accuses Waller of being up to something because he could have built his own team of trained operatives, but she did this. And she basically calls his bluff while threatening June. She's like, yeah, okay, call somebody and watch what happens to June Moon. So he backs off. This is when we get a shot of Joker who's drawn a smile over his face. He's seemingly distraught over Harley's capture. And in a shot that, in my opinion, has absolutely no substance, we pan out to see that he's surrounded by knives, piano keys, guns, champagne, baby clothes, all perfectly.
It doesn't even have style. It doesn't have style or substance. It's just a terrible shot.
It has style in the sense that if you got to the end of the pulled out image and took a snapshot of it, it'd be a cool poster. You understand? Like people would dig that as a phone background. But in the scheme of the story, what the hell does it mean? I guess you could assume that he just went crazy and got crazy. He got crazy. He bored. He has ADHD and pulled the punch things apart. What are the baby clothes about?
At that point.
Did he kill somebody in that room? What are the baby clothes about? What is going on? What the hell is happening? But again, we're told in a further film or future film or flashback, we will figure this out. It doesn't make any sense. Joker manages to get a hold of one of the guards off duty and gets him to slip a phone to Harley in hopes of tracking and saving her. Enchantress
Which never goes anywhere because I kind of wanted to see him die.
Oh, he doesn't go anywhere, but the phone thing does. But that's a whole nother movie, right? That's a whole nother movie happening on that side. Enchantress, sick of being on a leash, reads her own Wikipedia. She just like finds the book that has all her stuff in it. And she's like, oh, okay, brother.
It's like the Scarlet Witch getting the Darkhold from Agatha.
Yeah, she just finds the book. It's like, oh, snap. Okay.
It's one evil witch taking the power away from another evil witch.
So she frees her brother's soul into some random guy. And then she sicks that guy on Midway City. And he both destroys and takes over the city. And we get this weird, very weird series of dialogue with Enchantress talking to her brother. I think his name is Incubus. And they're talking about like how technology has taken over us and thus we deserve to be destroyed because of it, because we used to worship gods and now we worship our iPhone. It was trash. It was garbage. It was not even, they don't ever touch back on that, as a like evil people should just want to be evil to be evil. Like I just want to take over the world because I'm a demonic spirit. The more people that I control, the more
Remember
I
when
have
evil
a
was
hold over
just
this.
evil? Remember when evil was just evil? Now everybody has to be sympathetic. Everybody has to have a cause.
But what is this? What is this thing against technology? I don't understand. I really don't get it. Has she spent enough time, Enchantress, in June Moon's body? She's walking around and it's like nobody talks to each other anymore. Everyone's looking at their screens. Like what? It just felt very weird.
Because it's forced preaching. It's I have something to say, but I don't really have anything to say. That's the problem with certain writers. They try and make these villains to be this like philosophical preacher of I'm gonna save you all. It's Ultron. Every villain is basically written how Ultron is written.
Yep, and this was a couple years past Ultron, so they should have learned their lesson already.
Oh my God, yeah, this was 2 years later.
Hmm. You would think. You would think. But yeah, the attack from Enchantress's brother causes the authorities to activate Task Force X, and they round up the team. We get more music. We get brain injections. Joker breaks out into the facility that makes the brain bombs, so he can figure out how to disable them. They evacuate Midway City at the airport and then bring in Task Force X. They get their gear ready. Seven Nation Army, Without Me, all the hits from 2005.
Even back, you know what? Even back in the movie theaters, I hated that decision of Without Me.
I think
What's the
everyone
point?
did. It literally the only reason why you put Without Me is because you saw the video once and remembered that Batman and Robin were in it. That's the only reason why you would put that in this. And that's such a stupid.
No, because I guess because of the chorus, this looks like a job for me. So everybody just follow me. I guess we need a little controversy, and it feels so empty without me.
That's so corny.
But yes, it's very corny. Like I understand, but it's like you're not James Gunn. James Gunn literally picked the songs first and wrote a script around it.
Right. And we saw
you're writing a script and picking songs that you think relate to it the best. James Gunn was literally writing dialogue that related to the songs the best.
I also wouldn't be surprised I also wouldn't be surprised if they shot all this and it was done, completed, and then somebody looked through the catalog of music and was like, let's put this in here and let's put this in here.
What can we pay? What can we own? Like, what can we afford? What music can we afford? Well, we can't afford this, so let's try that.
Yeah. I mean, when Fortunate Son played, I was like, what are they doing? What is this? What are we doing? This
and they were playing it for Killer Croc.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Playing it to introduce Killer Croc. What the?
Doesn't make any sense. They get briefed by Waller on an iPad. And this is when I have a bit of an issue. Captain Boomerang is brought in a sack, right?
Yeah.
Then
with holes in it so at least he could breathe.
That sack was opened then with a knife. They didn't zip the sack open and release him. They plunged the knife into the canvas while the man was in the bag, and then opened it with a knife. Because
he's a criminal and they're not criminals, and
right, he's a criminal. He's dangerous. He can hurt people, right? So we put him in this sack to make sure that nobody gets hurt. Croc is in this weird Hannibal Lecter stand-up thingamabob, right?
Literally Hannibal Lecter.
Right. So that's how we keep our criminals. So why the hell does Slipknot drive in an unmarked SUV? Why is he driven? Why does he get escorted into the seat like he's somebody special?
I'm not really too sure, but their uniform, at least the ladies' uniform, kind of looked more like Interpol, or like, you know, it looked more like an international federation.
At the very least, he hits women, but he gets the black SUV treatment.
So he said it himself. Had a mouth on him.
Oh my gosh. Waller tells them that their mission is to rescue high-value Target 1 from Midway City. They get aboard their aircraft, and we meet Katana. Like I said, Karen Fukuhara. We get a flashback and exposition from
oh my God,
from Flag about her sword. So that's good.
And you know what's a shame is when I will never. This was last night, because remember, I watched this before The Boys was ever even a thought. Well, for me, anyways.
Right.
So I'm watching this last night before she takes off her mask. She comes on the plane and she has the mask on, and I'm looking at that jaw, and I'm like, I know that jaw. Whose jaw is that? I know that jaw. And then she takes off her mask to Harley and speaks some English, and I'm like, oh, holy shit, it's Kamiko. Oh man, that just made me want to watch The Boys.
And the weird thing
I noticed
I was just gonna say Enchantress. Katana's a hell of a character. Like the whole idea, we've seen her in Arrow in the 3rd season. The whole idea of like she's constantly carrying around the soul of her husband in this sword and can never get him back, but is seeking revenge for his death, and using the sword, the Soul Taker, she can pull the sword out of you. So not only will you die, but you'll be tormented forever, trapped in this inanimate object. That's pretty damn cool. We don't see that done once. As a matter of fact, would it even matter if I explained it? Like if he didn't say, don't get stabbed by her soul, whatever, or the sword does whatever. It wouldn't matter, would it?
I only say yes because when it was time for her to start doing her action, every time she was cutting someone, this dust, like smoke, was coming out of their body and going into her sword. And also, there was 2 instances where she was talking to her sword.
But
So
the instance where she talks to her sword gets exposition because that can't just happen and have us connect two and two together.
it, it happened once, and then you see it again the second time without it being explained. Like the
Yeah,
first
Rick Flag is her exposition machine. So she does
yeah.
something that Rick be like, yeah, she just doesn't like peanut butter. That's why she's cutting that sandwich that way.
No,
You know, it's like, what?
that was a very it was terrible line reading mixed with terrible dialogue. Like if you could have just read it better, I would have probably agreed with it more. But he was just like, "That's Katana. I wouldn't it upset her. Her soul captures anyone that cuts." I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
it's not great stuff.
it was just very monotone and bland. I'm like, okay, sure,
We get Spirit
sure.
in the Sky though. That's good, right? It was good when we saw it in Guardians first, but we have it here. Joker texts Harley. Croc throws up on the plane. Flag lies to the team and tells them that their threat is a terrorist group with AKs and dirty bombs. Again, like we were talking about last time with Will Smith, seemingly he has this cool redemption story. There's a story of Rick Flag, company man, realizing that his job is getting dirtier and dirtier, and him trying his best to distance himself from criminals, but realizing that there really isn't a difference when you get too far deep into the job that he has.
Well, that's because he I don't know how he has not learned yet that absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you
No
got
matter what.
that some of these people in this position have to tell themselves a certain kind of story to be able to sleep at night, right? They have to say that the ends justify the means, and yeah, bad stuff happens, behind the scenes or behind the curtains, but it's so that good stuff can happen in front of the curtains. That's the belief. You have to believe that.
No disrespect towards you, but at least the way the movie's portrayed, that's seemingly a militaristic mindset.
Oh,
Like
100%.
if you work for military, cop, any kind of agency where you have to strap a gun and a badge on every morning, I think you have to tell yourself certain things to be able to sleep at night. Like, oh, I had to kill that kid. He was pointing the gun at me. There was no way. Like, it was my life or his.
Totally. That's my opinion. So, but I feel like in this, he, like, especially in the very beginning, he says a lot of things to distance himself from Deadshot, and he makes a lot of jokes about how Deadshot is just a hired gun, and somebody that just will, for any amount of money, kill people. Where he's
And
kind of
it's
doing the
not
same thing.
realizing he's the hired gun saying it. It's the
Right.
pot calling the kettle black.
So
but
doesn't that
the
seem
pot
like
not knowing he's black.
doesn't that seem like a cool thread to pull and explore in this film? Like,
And they don't go on it.
they kind of do, but in between that, you have the Harley stuff, the Amanda Waller stuff, you have the Diablo stuff. There's a lot.
So
There's a lot.
I think there was there's legit 3 different scripts, all with its own potential to be an awesome solo thing.
Yep, and we
But
will
they're
talk about that.
juggling like 3 different scripts.
Yeah, 100%. So Flag accuses Deadshot of being the type to cut and run when things get hard, and just as tensions rise, their aircraft is knocked out of the sky. Everyone survives, so they decide to just go off on foot to find the high value target. Boomerang convinces Slip not to try to escape, and when he does, his head is blown up for his trouble. Everyone had already assumed that Slipknot was going to die. He was in all the promotional material, but in none of the trailers because there was no footage of him because he was dead.
He was also the only character that wasn't introduced via music video.
That's also true. I guess random question now, who do you think is going to be the person that, because there needs to be a person in all these Suicide Squad movies that gets their head blown up to show that this is actually a thing, or else people will forever question whether or not it actually works or it's a threat.
It's really difficult because I knew you were going to ask this. Not that we spoke on it, but I just assumed I prepared myself that you were going to ask this question. So I was thinking about it a lot, and the way that they're promoting all of the way that this Suicide Squad is being promoted, it's very tricky because in that last promotion of the movie we're talking about now, you could tell Slipknot's going. You just knew Slipknot was going. They even put it in the trailer, his death scene, without showing the rest of his death scene. They show him shooting up a building and like flying away.
Yeah.
So, like but if I had to really guess on it, I think Pete Davidson might go. Just
I was
because
gonna
it's
say Pete Davidson too. If
just
you're,
because it's Pete Davidson, and I think he would be down to want to do a death scene. I just think that's something that, oh hell yeah, man, I would definitely kill me, yeah, man, definitely.
if you're doing Pete Davidson, I won't keep I won't keep the same answer just to make things interesting when we review this next week.
So who's your second choice?
I'm gonna go for Javelin. I'm going to flute for Flugelborg.
You think Rooker?
No, that's Savant. Javelin is Flugelborg, the comedian. I think he was in Pitch Perfect.
Oh yeah.
He that javelin we see later on with Harley holding it. And we don't see him.
That's a good.
We don't see him in any of the South American scenes, like when they're in the jungle and stuff like that. We don't see him anywhere in that. So I'm assuming with him being kind of a comedic character, he might be one of the first ones to go. Yeah, that's all Slipknot was in this. He was just a person to show that it works. Deadshot and Harley make a plan to escape and spread the word when suddenly they're ambushed by Enchantress's army of faceless goons that she's able to create. These are normal men just taken over by Enchantress, and they are seemingly killed by by Task Force X. But Harley sees this as a time to ditch them. They're distracted. There's an army. People are dying. But Deadshot proves his worth by sticking with Flag and using his impressive aiming skills to take down several monsters.
Oh, that scene got actually, no joke, an actual like standing ovation in the theaters.
Yeah, it was a pop moment. It was definitely a pop moment. And I dig Deadshot's gauntlet guns. Like, I think that's
hell yeah.
I think that's a cool little aesthetic. He's always had them in the comics and stuff, but like not having to hold anything and just aim your wrist, kind of like how you saw Black Widow doing it.
His contract killing scene is probably my favorite scene of the entire movie.
Again, if he had his own movie, this would have been different. We would.
Oh my god, I could literally watch Will Smith play Floyd Lawton for 2 hours, for an hour, 45 minutes, for however long you want to make it. I could watch it because that whole scene of the contract killing.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, give me like another hour of that mixed with 45 minutes of like drama and tension and slow pacing things, so I have time to breathe. Oh, hell yeah. That shit was hilarious. All right, now double it for wasting my time. Boom, and then the music's going off, and like, it would have been a very urban and a very aesthetical movie. It would have been dope.
So Rick Flag tells Deadshot they have to stick together. This is what you were talking about the moment of hey, listen, they listen to you, we should stick together kind of stuff. Harley has a motorcycle flashback. This is the scene that we're talking about where she gets hit in front of the Joker as a, I don't know, love test.
No, because I remember seeing that deleted scene on YouTube.
Yeah, from the camera's perspective, right?
Yeah, from the camera's perspective, and you just see like Joker snatch the gun and then smack her and she hits the floor. So it's like, I knew it was coming. So when it didn't happen, I'm just like, oh, okay. I see what you guys are doing. But you're not going to stop people from...
You get the slap, you get all of it, really. And
you're still not going to stop people from anticipating and waiting for that slap to come.
Yeah, I wonder how many people didn't know this couple and would assume that they are like really in love with each other, like.
No, when you bring that argument up, it's like, yeah, you know what? And the problem is, it's a lot of social media and a lot of people that like idolize that relationship. They kind of taint the waters of what that true relationship is. So people see Harley Quinn and Joker, and they just see two insane people, lost, broken outcasts that only love each other, but have a little bit of a toxic relationship. And everybody nowadays idolizes this toxic relationship. Like they get off on it. They get off on fighting and hitting. And so I guess anybody that would watch this movie would be like, oh, they really love each other. They just have a toxic relationship. Me, I'm sitting here waiting for the slap that never comes.
Yeah. Instead, we get slapped by this movie.
So. No, that movie was a right cross from Tyson.
Yeah, it was. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is here. But I think what's most interesting is you get the flashback, and then Harley starts to stir shit by bothering everybody, picking at people, teasing them. I'm assuming in the regular cut, she just starts teasing them, but it makes much more sense that she was triggered by something and then became antagonistic. That makes way more sense. That adds a layer to that character. So
that bike scene never happened in the original. It's just, it cuts to the next scene and you just see her walking up to different people, just being antagonistic for no reason.
Yeah, just mean, like mean and teasing and just weird. Like, why are you, I think somebody says, I think Deadshot or something, like, what are you doing? Why are you stirring shit? And she's like, because I'm the bad guy or whatever the hell. Take a shot every time someone says something similar to that. They're told their high value target is on the top floor of the John F. Ostrander building. John F. Ostrander is the team's actual creator in comic books. So that was interesting.
I figured.
They infiltrate the building and take out the monsters en route to their target. Obviously, the scene lasts way longer than that, but I don't think there's much to say about it. I think the action scenes in here are poorly shot in the sense that I can't tell where people are in relation to each other. I can't tell where they are. Like, people are just swinging things,
Harley
and
had her own
great people
little
are being attacked.
elevator.
Yeah,
Pretty cool.
I'll give you that.
I didn't.
But I felt like that was more of a style versus substance thing. Like, did that have to happen?
I know, but 100%, this movie is too much style over not enough substance. It's like it's crushing the weight. The style is crushing down on its weight. Yeah. On top of this. That's the problem. It's aesthetical. It has this neon palette. There's so much pop culture music. There's a star-studded cast.
I'm now just realizing something that's getting me mad now, because now I'm realizing that if you follow the narrative of the film, it's seemingly Harley and Harley's narrative in the film is seemingly Harley trying to convince herself from the moment that she is arrested from the Batman incident that Joker is not good for her and that their relationship may not be what she needs it to be because he won't be the man that she needs him to be. But then he rescues her twice.
Only for them to break prey.
Yeah, off screen. So just remember all that, people.
Or something. You watch the extended cut, you already know is going to happen because he never wanted to be with her in the first place.
Yeah.
It was a reluctant relationship.
We get a moment where Deadshot eggs on Diablo to use his powers, and another Harley flashback with the acid dip. I love the use of "I Need a Gangster" in this moment. The theatrical version.
Really, I hate that song because of this movie.
the theatrical version of the song that's kind of mixed with the score of this scene, I thought was very well done, but in the grand scheme doesn't really make any sense. Like, not the scene makes perfect sense, but I'm talking about in the collection of scenes that make this movie, I wonder why it's even here. But it obviously has to express how Harley got to be who she is, but it was very weird.
It took certain things 10 steps backwards. Like it took comic book movies 10 steps backwards. It took adaptations as a whole 10 steps backwards. It took the female gender 10 steps backwards because it gave them this sort of relationship to idolize that they shouldn't be. How many girls who had that put in choker or that daddy's little girl crop top?
Yeah.
How many girls dyed their hair that way and listened to that song?
But what does it matter if your man is always there, if he's always going to come back for you, if he's always going to bring you in? We don't find out till 2020 that that's not the case. For 4 years, we had to believe that this is what happens. And that
ruins the dating scene for guys like us. I hate stuff like that because it ruins the dating scene in general.
I just feel like it was a bit of a misstep. You should have just did a whole Harley movie if you're going to do this scene, if you're going to do the moment. The song, I guess you could also say, is a bit damaging to the youth, I guess. But if you think of it as sung by a fictional character who would eventually learn the lesson that this is not what she wants, it makes sense. But at the end of this movie, she gets him, that gangster.
If I'm supposed to put this in my head that this song doesn't actually exist in the real world, and that song is the song that she made up in her head in that moment, and she's just being theatrically crazy by making up a song, fine, maybe. But the fact that people can actually listen to that song a full 3 minutes.
Yeah, the beat's banger. The beat's banging though. Don't be hating on the beat.
The beat is banging when they bring in that guitar solo.
Yeah, it's really good stuff.
It's a good song.
And then you get you get the pink and the blue. You get the power, surrender is power.
Yeah. Oh God, I hate that. Fuck.
All of that.
I can't say anything. This scene, I hate this scene. I rolled my eyes in theaters 5 years ago. I rolled my eyes.
You know why I think I like it? I like it because I like the origin. I do like the origin, and this is the first time I've seen it in live action. I think that's
but is that a good thing that this is that you like?
I don't think they did it wrong. I don't think they did it wrong. I just think that they did it in the wrong order. Does that make sense? Like
Mhm.
this scene I think would have worked in a movie that had the other scenes in it, where the motorcycle scene and the therapy scene and the therapy breakout scene, like that all exists in a movie that I think if paced right, that moment could have been a huge moment. But instead we see Harley as she is now and have to go back and get her
If
to
you
how she is.
if you took every Harley Joker scene from this movie and stretched it out and not made it a montage, but stretched it out where people could breathe, and you made it come out before Birds of Prey, it would have been a perfect 1-2 movie. But the fact that this was like you're handling one character's entire origin and character arc to set up her own little spin-off sequel,
Yeah.
on top of trying to manage a team movie, on top of trying to give four other characters their own full circle arcs.
Just juggling. That's all they seem to be trying to
Flag, Waller, Deadshot, Harley, then the Suicide Squad as a whole. This is too much, man. It was too much.
way too much. It's too much. Um they find out that the high value target is Amanda Waller. Waller shoots her remaining employees while Flag and Deadshot argue about who's the real bad guy. Again, what's the difference? Yada yada. When the team sees who they came for, they get angry, but Waller threatens them with death. With an aircraft en route to pick them up, Task Force X goes to the roof. Suddenly, they notice that the aircraft has been hijacked by the Joker, and both sides fire on each other. Joker gets the professor from the facility from earlier to deactivate Harley's neck bomb, and she goes to be reunited with her boo. Deadshot is instructed to kill her, but it chooses not to. Harley eventually falls from the aircraft anyway when it's hit in an attempt to take it down. The helicopter crashes, and with it, Joker. And Harley's chances to escape are seemingly diminished. Waller gets in her own aircraft, which is also taken down. So now the mission is we have to save Waller again. So that was one of the moments that I was like, wait a minute. I don't remember this sequence of events. They fly into Midway, their helicopter is taken down. They call for a helicopter, it comes, it gets shot down. Waller gets into her own bird, and that gets shot down. There was a lot going on with all of that, and I felt like kind of lazy writing. Like it just seemed weird. But yeah, I think I'm done with that. Anything you want to say on any of that?
I'm the same with you. I don't really remember Waller's aircraft going down the second time.
Yeah, it goes down, and that's how Enchantress eventually gets her in her snare. I think one of those.
Yeah, I kind of banked on all of that myself. Like I was literally blank. I just that whole after Harley escapes and then doesn't escape, there was a big blank moment for me.
Yeah. And like I said, this is where things kind of get gray and kind of get weird, right? Because as they're walking down the street, they see Harley crying, and she rejoins the team. With Amanda Waller in her custody, Enchantress frees her heart from Waller's control and is now fully powered. Her reach is extended, and she uses her powers to ensnare Amanda Waller. Meanwhile, Deadshot finds out that Flag knew more about June and Enchantress than he put on, and he makes him tell everyone the truth. So this is the moment where I realized that this movie is broken, because up until this point, we have been getting everyone's individual flashbacks, right? In this moment, we get a flashback not to prior times, but to a prior time in this film. They did not tell us that him and June went on a mission, and then June as Enchantress left him with a bomb to run to her brother to ask her for help. Then the brother empowers her, and thus she's able to wreck the city. All of that was kept from us up until now. Why? What reveal was that? That wasn't a reveal. Like, the movie's broken. How do you flash back to the midpoint of a movie to show us something that you could have just shown us when we were at that point in the film? Am I making any sense?
No, this whole final act was Hellboy. It was
like it didn't matter. It was just a bunch of things being thrown at a bunch of different things.
like I said, this is the DC equivalent of New Mutants for me.
So
Because
is
I
this the
don't
part where the demon bear comes out? This is your demon
thi-
bear moment.
this is my Demon Bear moment. This whole ending was just so weird. Harley doing the fake I'm on your side, and then you hurt my friends, and the coolest
Oh wait,
moment
wait,
was
don't jump there. Yeah, we gotta go to the bar, bro.
oh god, I
We gotta go
actually
to the
dig the
bar where
bar
they.
scene. I'm sorry, I dig this bar scene.
I dig it,
I
but
think this is
this is
true
not
Suicide
enough.
Squad fashion.
This isn't enough though. It's not enough, and
It's
it's too
not. It's
late.
not.
It's too late, and it's not enough. Yeah, trying to do
It is too late.
this team up, and this is supposed to be like the cathartic moment. This is supposed to be the whole jackasses standing in a circle moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Supposed to be the whole like, you know what, we might be losers, but losers win sometimes, yada 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 moment from the Guardians of the Galaxy, and it doesn't work in my opinion.
Well, for me, I look at it as this is that moment where they're on they're on Catraxia or nowhere. They were getting drunk. Drax and Rocket were getting drunk and spilling too much emotions. Like I didn't ask to be made and all that. Like this was a lot of that moment in Guardians where they were like at a standstill. Not only in where they stand as a group, but where the movie stood in plot terms. Because they haven't met Ronan yet. They just left the Collector.
Yeah.
And things were all not going their way.
But you already had a somber moment with Rocket and Drax. You already had a somber moment with Gamora and Star-Lord. They already had moments that led up to them eventually saying, you know what? We like each other more than we hate each other. But there were no moments in this. Harley tried to escape. Captain Boomerang tried to escape. Deadshot doesn't want to be here. I don't understand how this conversation changed any of that. Deadshot sees letters from
Karen
his daughter.
is just there just because she's a bodyguard.
That's her job.
Essentially.
That's literally her job. At one point, she has like this crying moment with her sword. I don't know why. She's just at work. I guess that the stakes and the risks are higher, so maybe she's just praying for his safety or whatever, and that's fine.
No.
Again,
I think that what I took away from that conversation is she tells her husband every time she's about to go into a battle that she doesn't know that if she's gonna make it. Like, so she's basically saying, if I don't
a lot though. Every time, Dan. Every time we're doing this, what is this?
I can't fight it on it because I would do the same thing. Listen, if I knew that today would be the last day that I'm gonna speak to you, I'm gonna make sure I say goodbye to you.
As they're doing this moment though, you have that line, you have the iconic trailer line. I completely forgot about it until they said it in the trailer, where the swords, whatever. No, but they did that already. What are we, some kind of Suicide Squad? It's fucking terrible. But no, I'm talking about, you know what they say about the crazy ones, huh? Remember that?
Usually,
in the trailer it was
because she's talking to the swords, like, you know what they say about the crazy ones, and Harley's there, huh?
And then in the trailer, you hear that weird penguin laugh that Leto's created. Quack, 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 quack. And so, yeah, they're.
We also need to talk about bad grammar. Mm-hmm. And I don't care if you're writing, and it has to be that you're writing the Joker's character. Mm-hmm. Can we just talk about the fact that it's badly and not bad? He said, I'm just going to hurt you really, really bad. I'm going to hurt you really, really badly. Yeah. It's an adjective.
But he has no eyebrows, so I don't trust a man with no eyebrows. By choice. No eyebrows by choice. I don't trust a man with
this
no eyebrows.
This is also a man that wrote Brightburn, so.
Where we at? So Flag.
We are at the bar.
We're at the bar. They get
unmotivated. It was a fun moment. It was a fun moment.
They get unmotivated because they find out that Flag and Enchantress were banging, kind of, sort of, and Flag was lying about this whole thing. So they leave Flag to go for drinks. They're like, if you're going to kill us, kill us. Diablo tells a story about how his powers, how his powers actually gave him status in the streets, and he wasn't used to being told no. So one of these days, his wife got in his face about his criminal behavior and threatened to take the kids, and him in his anger set home to the entire home. I set fire to the entire home, killing everyone.
And then he ended up becoming a pacifist.
Yes, and then his story gets Harley riled up about how none of them deserve a happy ending. And I love, almost like the He Who Remains, I love the Captain Boomerang's like, why every time you talk, it's got to be some fight? Like, every time you have something to say, it's got to be something. Why? You know?
Yeah.
And he's like, you're ugly on the inside. And she's like, we all are. I'm like, come.
Except for you.
I'm looking
You're
at
ugly
runtime.
outside too.
I'm looking
No,
at run times in this instance. You know, I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? Well, how much is left in there?
Croc called himself beautiful at the end of the day.
And he wants BET. Those were his. He was just a joke. Like you already had Boomerang as kind of a what is it called? Comedic foil,
Comedic relief.
comic relief. Yeah, and then yeah, everyone else was except for the 3 or 4 main people that they stick with. But yeah, Flag comes back into the bar, begs him to help him save June. Even goes so far as to destroy his little control pad where they can detonate their bombs. And you get a funny moment where as soon as he destroys
Captain Boomerang just bounces.
Captain Boomerang grabs a couple beers and he's like, I'm out. Again, they're not a team. You feel me? Like again, everyone's just waiting for the moment to.
They're forced to be there.
Right. After Deadshot sees some letters from his daughter, he agrees to join, believing that what they do today, everyone will know about, potentially making him a hero in his daughter's eyes. The rest join, and we are on to our third act. I thought this was kind of weird because he said something about like we about to get into some biblical shit. Like it was very weird. Felt like a writer wrote all that stuff. You know what do we say is going to be heard about years from now? It's like, is it? Is it Superman? Superman was just around. Like
what we do here will be talked about in the history books.
Yeah.
Our grandkids will tell the tales of our victories.
Our squad surveys the train station and sees Enchantress creating a machine. Rick's plan is to grab one of the depth charges he left when he was down there with Moon in the flashback that we hadn't seen.
I'm so glad they took away the gyrate. I just have to say it again. I'm so glad they took away the gyrating because the gyration.
There was a bit of it. There was a bit of it still. She was still.
There was a bit, but
even her hips.
But the design in the extended cut was so much different than the design in the theatrical release. That the gyration in the extended cut, it seemed to almost make sense as if the powers were moving through her. But the smoke design in the theatrical cut, I can't get over Enchantress with that smoke design.
I'm telling you, you gotta have to review both sides again. But that Enchantress design is basically untouched from the theatrical cut.
I'm gonna have to go back and see because I'm telling you, I remember there's
it's probably more vivid in HD now, like the green, the crown, and the heart glowing.
Well, I guess I have a smart TV, so it's a nice little 4K TV. So
yeah, but like I wasn't impressed with all the gray of everything, like all the gray of the CGI. It was constant.
Her skin tone was too gray. Her skin tone was way too gray.
I don't really like her brother's character design. This weird like jack-o'-lantern kind of, you know, like where the fire's on the inside and it glows through the outside. It was very weird. I didn't get it. We didn't find out where this Enchantress spirit comes from, what religion it's from, how do you activate it, how do you stop it. All we know about is this weird heart thing that you're supposed to stab. So, yeah, Rick's plan is to grab these depth charges, have someone who can swim, place the bomb directly under Enchantress and her brother in the machine, and detonate it. Croc volunteers to do it, and the rest gear up. But Croc is ultimately not the one who does it. So I don't know what the hell all this was for. Anyway, Flag tells Deadshot that June made him believe in love when nothing else did. He thought it was a lie. This is a failure of the film that we do not understand what he's saying. Like we do not feel it, you know. It's a failure of the film that he speaks about June as the one person who allows him to understand what love is, and I think it's a failure of.
It was just written by a writer. It's like you said. It's just more.
We didn't feel that connection. Nope. They get inside mere feet from Enchantress and try to distract her. Instead, Enchantress tells them that she can see them and plants false memories of their dream lives into their heads, which distracts them. El Diablo is able to shake it off, and he unleashes his powers, becoming an Aztec god, I think. And he goes head to head with Enchantress.
I'm pretty sure it's Aztec.
He goes head to head with Enchantress's brother, while Croc gets the charge where it needs to be. And then boom, they blow it up. Diablo's like, blow it. He doesn't care.
So Diablo, Killer Croc, and Scott Eastwood all sacrificed themselves, basically.
No, well, not Killer Croc, because he comes back later to throw the other charge or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's right. I can't. That's right. He's the only one that's
that's his job after that is to throw the thing.
He conveniently survives.
The explosion seemingly kills them both. The death of her brother angers Enchantress, who uses her abilities to take out satellites and electricity. This is my favorite part of the movie because she destroys a satellite, but we get satellite footage of her destroying the satellite. So there was another satellite there, even though the guy, when it's destroyed, says he took down our only satellite. Doesn't make any sense. But I didn't write the movie. She does battle with our heroes hand to hand for no reason. Absolutely none. This is a woman who can transform you into a demon of her own army, can get into your mind and implant memories. She chooses to fight them hand to hand. This is the moment in which I realized that this is a terrible team to fight Superman, because half of them would have been dead. Anytime Deadshot shoots at either Incubus or Enchantress, I audibly laugh. Like at one point, Diablo is trying to take him down and it's having issues, and so Deathstar starts to shoot at him. I'm like, if Diablo's having issues, what the hell do you think you're gonna do with a couple of bullets? But my man is confident in his marksmanship, so can't blame him for that.
It's, you know what? Natasha put the battery in everybody's back. Natasha put that battery in everyone's back. That if you just have enough bullets with enough will in your heart, you can take down an entire legion of aliens.
Oh my god! Now I'm thinking about vibranium bullets being able to absorb the shock of all that. That's Someone get on
vibranium bullets.
Somebody get on vibranium. I'm pretty sure somebody has.
Someone get Marvel on the phone. This man has some ideas.
Harley convinces her that she's changed her mind and wants to join her, but when she least expects it, she rips her heart out. When she recoils in pain, Deadshot shoots one of the charges the instant it gets close to the machine, despite Enchantress trying to convince him to do otherwise. The explosion gets rid of the machine, and Rick destroys the heart, which brings June Moon back. There's a moment where she's like, June Moon's never coming back, and then he stabs the heart, and then June Moon comes back. And I was like, what was the drama there? What? Like, he's like, bring her back. She's like, she's never coming back, you idiot. This is never gonna happen. And he stabs the heart, and June's back, and everything's back to normal.
It was a bluff. It was a mere bluff.
Everyone is relieved, but then Amanda Waller shows up and reminds them that they're all going back to prison under threat of death. So there you go with that. In a flash forward, we see that Floyd is granted a visit to see his daughter, and we get shots of our squad still in jail. We see Harley having tea when suddenly the prison is breached, and we see the culprit. It is the Joker, and he's here for his boo. The end. We get a mid-credit scene where Amanda Waller meets with Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is pumping her for meta-human information. We will end up finding out later on that he was using this to find where the Flash actually was. So that's how he ends up seeing him in Justice League. And then she advises him to stop working nights, kind of implying that she knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And he tells her she better shut down Task Force X or he will, which was probably the most interesting part of the film. Setting up for something we would never get. It reminded
me a lot of like their relationship that was displayed between Justice League Unlimited and like the New Adventures of Batman and stuff. Like
they both hate how much they are
alike.
Yes, in the sense that they will bend cross lines and bend rules so that they can get the information that they need, which they believe is all for the greater good. I am just finding out right now that this is breaking news. There are 2 Harley Quinn movies left in Warner Brothers vault. Harley Quinn versus the Joker movie, the script from Glenn Ficarra and Ron Requa. The film was expected to start production after Suicide Squad, but it was canceled in 2019. And then obviously Gotham City Sirens, which was supposed to be directed by David Ayer, and it got paused so that they could do Birds of Prey and the Suicide Squad. But seemingly those scripts were written, or at least the treatments were started. All of that was put on hold. All of that was put on hold because this film had a very troubled post-production. Are you ready to hear some of the notable edits that were made to this film? And
I am ready.
See why we got the film that we got. The Franken film that we got is what I'm going to start calling some of these things. Franken films, bro. Because just like Frankenstein, they're just stitching a bunch of things together and hitting it with some electricity and hoping it works. So the first 40 minutes of this film were cut, with sections of it potentially being used for the flashbacks in this film. 40 minutes, right out the door. The third act was changed with the Joker originally having an influence within it, with the majority of Leto's scenes being omitted from the theatrical cut, which upset Jared Leto. And if you look at any interviews after the fact, he was very tight-lipped about his involvement in this film, even though prior you couldn't get the guy to stop talking about him being Joker. In the original cut of the film, Diablo would have originally survived. According to David Ayer, his cut would have featured hints at Steppenwolf and the Parademons, saying that it would have been Enchantress to set off the mother boxes and not Superman. There was a scene shot with Harley in a wedding dress that was cut. Harley Quinn, Slipknot, Batman, Enchantress, and Katana originally had larger roles, with Katana eventually becoming possessed and attacking the team at one point. There was a thick romance between Deadshot and Harley Quinn that was removed. There were scenes showing Harley and Joker's abusive relationship that were cut from the theatrical release. A Killer Croc line was added to the theatrical cut without David Ayer's input. Jeff Johns added Harley Quinn being an accomplice to Robin's murder to the theatrical cut. Parts of the original score were replaced with pop songs for the theatrical cut. According to Warner Brothers Media, there is no plans to release the original cut of the film. And the biggest thing, the final cut of this film was taken away from David Ayer and instead handed to a trailer production company. So this movie was cut by the same people who cut trailers, which is why I say any 5-minute stretch is probably perfect. These scenes put together is a mess. It's a mess. But you take, like I said, you take the moment of Deadshot shooting on top of that building. Cool stuff. I like personally the acid bath moment. Cool stuff. Everything else in between, it's garbage. They originally, I don't know if you remember, did the first set of trailers were the I Started the Joke trailer. Really great.
Yep.
Really
I started a joke.
Gray, gothic, tragic,
Started
dark.
the whole world laughing.
Which people dug, but people dug the Bohemian Rhapsody trailer way more.
For me, I will never forget my emotions on the trailer that had Ballroom Blitz.
Yeah.
Like there was just so much when it cuts to that bridge part, and the man in the back, as a matter of fact, and his eyes are as red as the sun, and it had the cut of all of the scenes in Suicide Squad. I'm like, damn, this might be even to this day, having watched the movie 3 times, I will still watch that trailer like, this is a really good trailer.
I do think that Bohemian Rhapsody trailer is amazing as well, but
I think it's the same trailer. It starts with Bohemian Rhapsody and then goes into Ballroom Blitz. It's the second trailer.
The issue is the Bohemian Rhapsody trailer creates a tone for the film that the film did not have.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
So they then had to give the movie to the people who cut the trailer. Does that make sense to you?
Like, can you edit? I know you edit our trailer, but can you edit our film now
so that it matches what the trailer says the movie's
gave in this 3-minute trailer? So we need this 2-hour and 13-minute movie to match your 3-minute trailer.
So David Ayer's vision was thrown in the garbage because it didn't match what they had promoted. What they had told us was going to be Suicide Squad, which was supposed to be a fun Guardians of the Galaxy-esque romp. So now they give it to this trailer company who does their best to make it Guardians, throwing a bunch of music in. Here's some like intros with the words on the screen and all this other kind of stuff. Here's some random flashbacks.
Here's so much.
And by the way, there was no flashbacks in Guardians of the Galaxy. By the way,
there was one
in the beginning, but it wasn't like he was looking out the window and flashed back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It wasn't like Rocket a character was thinking of a moment.
Rocket wasn't walking by. Rocket saw a syringe on the floor, and then he gets a flashback to his experiments in the lab.
And Guardians probably worked because, again, they didn't dive into Rocket's background. They didn't dive into Gamora's background. They didn't dive into Drax's background or Groot's background. They all
you literally got who they are, and that was it. You knew Rocket was experimented on. You knew Groot was from this planet. You knew Gamora was the daughter of Thanos. You knew Drax lost his family to Ronan, and Quill was kidnapped by the Ravengers. And that's all you needed to know. Yeah. Everything else was given to you by their personality, by the character traits, by the acting and the chemistry.
Yeah, and you can't just take you can't just trace. Everyone can tell what a tracing is, right? Everyone can tell a tracing.
You're a tracer.
Yeah, you're tracing out here.
You're a tracer.
It's a
damn anchor. You're a tracer.
Had they anchored this film on Flag, maybe, and him trying to not be a criminal, and then realizing that, well, you know what, the lines are a lot grayer than I realized, and then you can go to the Suicide Squad where he seems a lot more comfortable hanging out with these guys. If you would,
100%. This could have been either a Harley trilogy or a Rick Flag sequel
or a Deadshot standalone, but it can't be all three. It can't be all three, and that's why
we tried
now.
this movie tried giving what this movie tried doing was it tried giving you this franchise of Harley movies while giving you a very complexly and interesting written character in Rick Flag, but then the star power of Will Smith. And but we got to make Will Smith the star no matter what. Will Smith has to be in the forefront. So, but then we have Viola Davis. We got to give Viola Davis a lot of the good lines. So there was so much juggling, and the juggling failed. And it was a person that thinks they know how to juggle, keep trying to, wait, no, I got it. Wait, no, I got it. This time I definitely got it.
Yeah.
And they keep dropping the ball, keep picking up the balls. Like, wait, no, I definitely got it this time. And keep dropping the ball.
Well, it wasn't for lack of trying, Dan. I have here reportedly from MTV.com, I'm going to give them credit where their credit is due, every crazy thing that Jared Leto supposedly did on the set of Suicide Squad. Are you ready to listen to this before we wrap up?
Oh, God, I remember this.
Okay. So reportedly, Will Smith never met Jared Leto on set. He said the method actor Jared Leto was committed to being the Joker. We never said hello. We never said good day. I've only ever spoken to him as Deadshot and him as the Joker. I literally have not met him yet. Not a single word exchanged off camera. He was all in on the Joker. All right. Margot Robbie reportedly received a live rat from Jared Leto. At first, I thought this was disgusting, but then after that, I was like, I'm not going to kill him. So I ended up keeping him as a pet. I ended up getting him a sweet little playpen, a slide, a hammock, and a leash because I wanted to take him on walks.
The sweetest soul. She's just the sweetest soul ever.
Yeah.
She really is a pure to heart soul.
Why
she got a rat as a method acting prank and then decided, you know what? I'm going to keep him as a pet. Thank you, Jared. You just gave me my new pet.
Viola Davis revealed that Mr. J gifted the cast of Suicide Squad a dead pig. He did some bad things.
I heard it was a dead bird.
It was a hog. He did some bad things, Jared Leto did. He gave some really horrific gifts, she said. He had a henchman.
Was a bloody tampon, used condom.
He had a henchman who would come into the rehearsal room, and the henchman came in with a dead pig and plopped it on the table, and then he walked out. That was our introduction into Jared Leto. In an interview with E! News, Leto revealed that he sent everyone in the cast used condoms and anal beads as means to further identify with the Joker. I did a lot of things to create a dynamic, to create an element of surprise or spontaneity, and to really break down any kind of walls that may be there. The Joker is somebody who doesn't really respect things like personal space or boundaries. He also gave people a box of nudie mags.
Who used the condom? Did he use the condom?
His method, Dan. Come on. His method. So he also gave a box of nudie mags, a dildo, a switchblade, used condoms. Scott Eastwood was scared to approach him because he didn't want to mess with like his method thing. So he didn't get any condoms and stuff like that. So I guess that's good. He freaked out David Ayer.
Completely avoided him.
David Ayer said of Leto's performance, he constantly has to give birth to himself. He goes away, comes back, he shoots, he goes away. The Joker is something you have to be, and you can see how exhausting and painful it is for him to get into this character. But you can feel it when he comes to work. The crew feels it. Everyone feels it. It's like a bird stopped flying. He's fucking terrifying.
Jared Leto's still the Joker at the end of the day.
Apparently. He wasn't going to rehearsals. He put a bag on the door. It was a dead pig. There's a bunch. There's a lot going on.
Man loves his dead pigs.
Yeah. Margot Robbie says she doesn't think of Jared Leto and the Joker being the same person. Was all this method acting worth it with the final result, Dan? And
I think so.
A film out there that is robbing us of the pureness that could be Jared Leto's Joker.
Yeah, it's basically Requiem for a Dream.
Requiem for a Joke.
That's basically the original Todd Phillips Joker without going to the Murray end of it.
I don't blame him. The guy seems to be a talented actor, and he also seems to be the kind of person that wants to get into these roles.
Jared Leto's an amazing actor, but an even more songwriter, singer.
Yeah.
I feel he should just I understand he loves acting, and if you love acting, do it. He's gonna be in the new Versace biopic.
Gucci.
Oh, Gucci, yeah, not Versace. He's gonna be in the new Gucci biopic.
I don't think that when the trailer company had the movie in their hands, there was any room for a pimp slapping clown in their production. They looked at the
Not at all.
trailers and they were like, well, we can put him in here and there. We have to put him in the moments we put in the trailer. Right. So, and they didn't even do all of that because there's a moment where his face is scarred and we never get that moment in the scene. But yeah, that seemingly is that on that. It's a lot, Dan. Like you said, the movie was taken from the man. It was stripped into shreds. It was thrown in front of the audience, and then the man
It was
blamed for it.
bastardized.
The man was
it was a
blamed for it.
bastard.
If you go to Comic Book Click on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, you'll see David Ayer actually penned the very last words that he will say about this film, basically describing how it was taken from him, describing what kind of movie he thought he was making, and just how he feels about the process overall. It's kind of disheartening, but if you want to hear the true story from the man himself, you can go to his Twitter, or you can go to us wherever we're at on social media. But
Comic Book Click is all over social media, so I don't want to hear these excuses. I've done it myself.
there are
You
no
type
excuses.
Major Issues Podcast, 2 full Google pages. You type Comic Book Click, websites, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
We're all over, B. We're all over. As a matter of fact, we want to thank you guys for listening to this episode because we're getting closer and closer to episode 200, and hopefully you guys
Oh my God.
continue on the journey with us. We covered episodes every single Wednesday, knock on Vibranium, and we haven't missed a week yet. So join us every single week. If this is your first episode, join us next week. Go see The Suicide Squad. We'll be talking about it in full spoilerific.
The both of us will
flavor.
be back again to be talking about Suicide Squad in literally a 5-year difference from the release of the one we're talking about now.
Yep, and in less than a week's time, hopefully we'll be covering this thing. So that is going to be exciting, and we want you guys to join us. So first, like, share, and subscribe to the podcast wherever the podcast is found. That's Podbean, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, the podcast app, Apple's podcast app, Google's podcast app, TuneFind, YouTube, Spotify. We're available wherever podcasts are found. But the one place to find everything Comic Book Click is at comicbookclick.com. Our website is almost 2 years old at this point, but it's the one stop for everything Comic Book Click. The merchandise exclusively designed by yours truly. Every single of the Major Issues podcast episodes. That's over 180 episodes, over 360 hours of content at this point. Like I said, I wanted to get to a point where I wanted to get.
You love to read.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of Harley stuff in there as well. We've covered Birds of Prey. We've covered some episodes of the animated series. We covered a Harley comic. We've covered Joker, a whole bunch on the podcast. So go to comicbookclick.com. You can even search. Put in the search bar Joker, Harley, Suicide Squad, and you can find all the times we spoke about these people. We did it for Spider-Man Day where we typed in Spider-Man. You can see how much we've covered him. So yeah, comicbookclick.com. You'll see once you get there that there's a support Comic Book Click button. If you hit that, it'll take us to our Patreon at patreon.com/CBC Clubhouse. And for little as $3 a month, you can help us keep our lights on here. And help support us as independent content creators who do all of this free of charge, but sometimes the expenses can mount up. So if you want us to reach new horizons, consider supporting us. If you can't support us monetarily, then tell a friend to tell a friend about the podcast, share it, and share all our social media.
$1 for 30 days.
That's it. One 10 cents a day. That's 10 cents a day, $3 a month. That's cheaper than any subscription service, and we're working on some new exclusive content for our Patreons that we will be pushing out hopefully very soon, including first round looks at some of the things that we've done that will be going up to YouTube. So that's exciting. So consider supporting us that way, but you can support us for free by rating and reviewing us on iTunes. Is the quickest way to grow as podcasters and find out what you like and what you don't. Because I've been to the future, and not the one where this film does any good, where we do become the latest and greatest thing to come to comic books and comic book media. I can't tell you how we do it. It will mess up the timeline. Barry's about to fix it, and we're not going to get this movie ever again. So make sure that you are on the bandwagon before it ends up becoming full, before the Speed Force ends up shaking all this apart. Make sure that you're listening to the Major Issues podcast every Wednesday, and that you are following up on all our social media so you can get updates on what's going to be next on the cast and how you can get your voice heard. But we're also all over social media. We want to hear you guys talk to us about this film. Go to facebook.com/comicbookclick, Instagram at comicbookclick, or you can use the hashtag comicbookclick to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media as well. We're all over, people. Hit us up. talk to us about Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad, and then we'll be unveiling our full lineup pretty soon too, and that's going to be hella exciting because we have The Boys, Umbrella Academy, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, Shang-Chi, Spider-Man, Eternals, The Boys, I
Doom
think I said it right,
Patrol.
Doom Patrol, all seemingly coming back in this fall to winter schedule. So make sure that you're paying attention to everything we do, all of our updates, so you can join in on the conversation. But I think that's about it for today. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don.
I am a variant of Dan, the comic book man, D137.
And this has been our Suicide Squad 2016 recap and review for its 5-year anniversary. And remember, whether you're a villain, a heathen, or just a bad guy, whether you're an insane clown stripper or just a bad Joker cosplayer, remember not to let people mess with your work like David Ayer. Remember that we are the clique. And remember, please remember that you, yes, you are worthy.